Hi, guys. Welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. It's 2021. I'm here with Steve, my partner, and Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year. Thankfully, 2020 is in the rearview mirror.
Yep.
And let's hope this year is
Yep.
full of good things. And
Prosperity and getting the world back to a normal state of affairs, as
Right.
they say. Right?
I actually made the statement to somebody recently. I'm starting to forget what normal feels like.
Yeah.
Like, really, every aspect of society. I mean,
It's different.
you can't even go to a movie. You can't do this. You know, the Christmas shopping, everything.
Yep. Which is going to lead me into, this week's monologue, because I wanted to talk about this,
Good.
right? 2020 was an unbelievably crazy year, right? And
The craziest,
Right.
bar none.
Right, certainly in our lifetime. But I wanted to talk about it like from an impact on sports, right? And again, this was a very serious thing, and it's still going on. And if we look back on it, what has happened? So a full season of major sports, right? I think the only one from a perspective that really hasn't been impacted from making a shortened season like a 60-game baseball season or an NBA, playing in the bubble sort of thing is the NFL, right? And we're coming up on the last week of the NFL, but COVID is running wild. But when I was looking back on it, all the changes in baseball and NHL and the NBA season and so forth, and again, we're going back to shortened seasons as we get into 2021 because the calendar got all blown out of whack, right? And from a COVID perspective, and this is real serious, 350,000 people have lost their lives, and it's still running rampant. And we saw the impact from our perspective, right? We're high school football guys, and in New York and Connecticut, those kids didn't get a chance to play. But we all get all crazy over, professional sports and so forth. And, I'm not sure where we are with this COVID thing, Steve, right now, because, when you look back on, what has happened, having the shortened seasons and so forth, I feel bad for the kids that just didn't get a chance to play football their senior year and all the stuff that was lost. But I got to tell you, this thing, the Buffalo Bills are going to start allowing fans at the game, right? It's going to be 6,700. And it looked like there was a lot of people at the Rose Bowl and what was the other one? The Sugar Bowl last night, right? So where are we with it? It's something it's 2021, and I want to put this in the rearview mirror and look back on it and say, sports wasn't the most important thing, but it's something that we all, it's a distraction, if you will, from the reality of COVID. And it's happened. And the one observation I was thinking about, Steve, was in all of the major sports, right? 350,000, not one prominent player in any of the leagues succumbed to this COVID thing, right? But it's impacted. Guys are getting put on COVID list, and this guy can't play because he's got COVID and so forth. But nobody really died. So that's why sports is still continuing to move forward, and that's why I think they're allowing fans back in the stadium. And that's my monologue for 2021. What do you think? Give me a thought.
Yeah, I mean, again, from a sports perspective, sports is a distraction from the everyday stress of life.
Right.
I was affected by COVID on a personal level. I lost a friend in town. I mentioned that months ago, Gary Walker, and I still think about him
Yep,
and
I
his
remember.
family and things like that. But here we are in 2021, but the COVID is still affecting sports in the fact that from a calendar perspective, meaning, coming into this year, like I said, the NHL, we'll get to that, but they're going to start up in about a week or so, training camps, things like that.
Yep, shortened season.
But typically, right, the NHL would typically start in late October, that type of thing, and we'd be, maybe a quarter of the way of the season done.
That's what I meant when we're still off whack from a traditional...
Right, so hopefully if COVID does dissipate and hopefully goes away anytime soon, we can get back on the regular calendar, meaning the Masters in April, that thing, and the U.S. Open in June,
And the Kentucky Derby
and
in
the
May.
Kentucky Derby, and all the things that, like I said, we take for granted, and let's hope we can get back to a new normalcy. As far as COVID affecting sports, the NFL has gotten through, and tomorrow is basically the end of the regular season. But there has been impact of it. There's been cancellation of games or postponements, and lots of players have been exposed. But to your point, nobody has succumbed to it. Now, getting back to fans attending games, I think it's a good thing to keep it limited to a point. You can't.
6,700 fans in Buffalo,
Which
right?
is, Rich Stadium.
And the governor of New York will actually be in attendance.
But
at
Rich
the game.
Stadium, you know what I'm saying, whatever the hell it's called now. I mean, that's a venue that can hold 90,000, that type of thing.
Beautiful stadium,
But
by
it's
the
still
way.
going to look like, ants in a, on a farm type of thing. They'll be spread out. But, again, the monologues about COVID, and we're
Its
not out of
impact
the
on
woods.
sports.
We're not out of the woods.
No, we're not. We're
But,
definitely not. But there's one thing I was thinking about when you look at this over the past 9 months, 10 months, and go into different seasons of sports. What is it going to cost to go to a baseball game? Right? Because there's been no fans, no support of the local community, and we've talked about this. I feel bad for the guys that own restaurants and so. But what is the impact? Somebody's going to have to pay for the past year of not being able to go to sports and businesses.
It's going to be the average fan. Again,
it's going to be out of reach
well,
for the
it's not
average
going to be
fan.
out of me. I can tell you that, because I'm not paying to go. I'm not.
I agree.
I work for a company that my boss is very generous, and from a business perspective, we have the ability. He'll get the box for the Rangers and the Knicks, and he does the box for the Jets, and so on and so
we'll
forth.
go to those.
Well, that is that's a gimme.
But all joking aside, I'm saying the financial impact of the financial damage that was wrecked on
My
this whole
my
thing.
thought is, I don't think it can be a lot more than what it is or it was going in, because
But we
getting
thought that-
something is better than getting nothing.
I get it.
And I don't think right out of the gate the sports teams can try and compensate for last year's financial losses. I think you got to bring them back slowly and get them back to the parks, and then of course over a short period of time they'll raise it according to.
I know, and we brought this
the
up
numbers.
before, though. At the NBA, there's a laundry list of names that you've never heard of that they're paying, $20-30 million. Somebody's going to have to pick up that tab, and it's going to be the consumer. That's what I'm afraid of. That it's going to be. You mentioned before the average fan. Well, the average fan was like you and I, taking our kids to games and so forth without breaking the bank. I think you're going to break the bank now.
Again, TV, streaming, internet, that's where the big bucks come from.
But when you have a stadium that holds 100,000 people and there's 5,000 people in the stadium,
I get that.
There's damage.
But the owners are still making money through the TV, streaming, and so on and so forth.
But they're not making the money they were making, and they're going to
That's
pass
true.
that on.
Well,
to
that's
us,
true. And
somebody
again,
else.
it's not the same. I mean, you want a full venue, you want a full house. That's the excitement of sports. That's rooting for your team. That's the home field advantage that's been lacking for each sport.
You're right.
I mean, that's something I really missed watching,
But the impact from an overall perspective of this pandemic during this time was we weren't able to go see high school football like we did in the past, and that's a big impact. For
Absolutely.
us, so.
Yeah, I mean, I really miss not having the ability to be at a Ranger game and saying, "You suck, Crosby!
You suck, Messier!" party reference,
Right.
banging on the glass.
Right.
Devils fan. It was.
Or going to a Giant game and throwing snowballs at Santa Claus.
I
You
was
know,
at the
that-
snowball game actually.
I'm kidding that I would do that, but you sit there and watch.
I was horrified.
Right.
I was at that game actually.
Or a fire in the upper deck of a Jet game, or
Well, I think it
or
was
the
in-
Eagle fans we talked about.
It was in Philadelphia where they threw snowballs at Santa Claus, like in the
Right.
'60s or
Okay.
'70s maybe. But anyway, so let's. It's 2021. This is our first show, and we appreciate everybody's loyalty and from 2020 and so forth.
Yeah,
And send us
so
an
let's
email.
look forward to a nice new year, and bigger, better things are going to happen. And
We hope.
We
We
look
hope.
forward to obviously continuing to hear from you guys. And sportswithmonoandmono@gmail.com is the email.
Yep.
And we've been getting great emails and great feedback, and we certainly appreciate that. And we wish everybody in the audience and their families, a happy, healthy 2021. So that being said, you and I got together last night to do some research.
Yep.
Right? It's not easy. Everybody thinks, we just show up here and
No, that's not how it works.
so we had to, do some homework last night, and it
did.
started at 4:00 Eastern time on our couches, and Jim and I got together, and we opened up with Alabama and Notre Dame. What were your thoughts?
And look, I'm glad you brought that up, but I just first want to mention that this segment sponsored by one of our favorite supporters of the show, Coriano Trucking.
Coriano Trucking.
Right? I told you he relocated to New York State, but we thank them and wish them happy New
You
Year.
need
as well.
something delivered from A to B. Coriano Trucking is the way to go.
Yep. And as Steve said, it's kind of been a tradition for him and I since we were 7 and 9 at the time.
Been a long-
We never missed. New Year's Day was one of the greatest days in sports.
Oh, my God.
For us. It's different now. The Rose Bowl was actually played in Dallas Cowboy Stadium.
We
AT&T.
feel that the Rose Bowl can be played in Texas to help, because California obviously is one
Under
of the
serious
states that
restrictions.
won't allow fans, so
Yep.
they had to move the Rose Bowl to Texas Stadium.
But that's where we are. It was college football, and you're right. 4:00. We looked at the game. Alabama on paper. We saw probably the Heisman Trophy winner in Devontae Smith.
I think so.
Right? And probably locked it up last night. But
My first impression of Alabama last night, what a three-headed monster they got with Mac Jones, Devontae.
Najee Harris.
Oh my God! So the Najee Harris leapfrog of the Notre Dame defender
That's one of the-
most impressive things I've ever seen on a college football.
And we'll see
field.
it 5,000 more times.
You know why
before
we should?
go. Yep.
Because it wasn't like the defender on Notre Dame was kind of like at his knees,
Right.
like where you typically would see a
Yeah.
leap. He was literally at his shoulders, like heading down to make the tackle.
It was a great play.
It
I mean,
was a phenomenal,
And that's a highlight film,
athletic burst that.
Like
Oh
when
my
we used
God.
to see Earl Campbell and Tony Dorsett classic college running back runs and so forth. This is going to be one for the books.
But nothing of that physical ability to
It was
leap.
awesome.
And Alabama offensively is just,
Yeah.
they're outstanding.
And it
Just
looked like-
outstanding.
And I want to talk about this because I've been on this Notre Dame bandwagon, right? They've been number 2 most of the year, right? Now they're in the ACC and so forth, but
For just
they lost
this year,
their
the
7th
ACC.
straight.
To make that point, it's just for a year, the ACC.
That's what I'm talking about.
I
Yeah.
know, I'm just
First
saying,
year.
they'll go back to being independent.
Okay.
When things
But
settle down.
They lost and again got beat down again.
Again, but the thing is, you and I talked during the game, the difference is Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, their recruiting classes are better, meaning they're always in the top 5.
But
Notre
there's
Dame's
enough, enough kids to go around.
But Notre Dame's recruiting class, as good as it is, it's still 11th, 12th, 13th. So my point is, Notre Dame will only have 1 or 2 stud top guys. Meanwhile, you're playing Alabama, and Alabama is throwing 5 on each side of the ball, and you see that with Najee Harris.
But Steve, there's
you
enough.
see it with Devontae
There's
Smith.
enough great talent across
You
this
see
country.
it with Patrick Surtain II at cornerback. You see it with Dylan Moses at linebacker. The Alabama offensive line. These guys are men.
I know, but so is Notre Dame.
But Notre Dame, I don't think last night they looked as beat down or non-competitive.
Well, we were watching the game together, and it looked like it was going to get ugly,
But
early.
Right, so the Notre Dame running back, he's outstanding. And he's a freshman?
He's freshman.
Yeah, outstanding. And unfortunately, the Book of Ian has come to a close, who had a great career at Notre Dame. And
Record-setting career at Notre
outstanding.
Dame.
There's nothing to hold his head up or down for losing, against an Alabama team. He had a great career. Now Notre Dame needs a new quarterback, and they move on. Brian Kelly, again after the game last night, was getting peppered with questions where he wanted to him. He wanted to take a chair and throw it against the wall to answer these questions about why can't you be competitive. Well, they are. They're there. They're in the top 4.
But this
I got no problem with Notre
their
Dame.
bowl game record is
I
abysmal,
understand.
and it's killing me.
I understand, but they're continually playing better, stronger, faster competition once you get to the championship games.
Look, there's 5 teams. There's the Clemsons, Alabamas,
I just
the
said that.
Notre Dames, right? They get their fair share of talent. But Notre Dame has just looked embarrassing, to be quite honest with you. And listen, I've liked Brian Kelly all along, but you got to cross the goal line. And at some point, you can't get annihilated New Year's Day year after year after year.
But that's again back to my point. They're facing Superman
Yep.
in the finals,
All right.
and you don't have the powers that they got.
All right. Well,
I'm
you're a point spread guy, so
I am.
it was 17.5
Right.
last night, and it looked like they were going to get blown out of the
And
water.
if I was gonna, I didn't get a bet in, but I was taking Alabama, and guess what? It would have been it's fixed.
By half a point. Son
It's
of a
fixed.
So that game was the first game, and then the second game was Ohio State Clemson.
Right,
Which
and I
is-
got that wrong too. I would have gone 0 for 2. If
I totally went with Clemson last night.
I was all in on Clemson as well, and took it on the chin.
And they really stuck at the
Ohio
Clemson
State,
last night.
really.
I mean, Justin Fields had a career day.
What do you
Good
have,
for
6? Something like that.
him. He had 5 before I fell asleep when he knew the game was
I think
over.
he finished with 6, but
And he took a shot, which, by the way, this targeting rule.
Yeah.
Did you see the play? Would you have called that targeting? I mean, what is Skowski supposed to
I
do?
get it. It's a catch-22. I understand it.
I think if Justin
By
Fields,
the letter of the rule, you have to call targeting, but is it targeting? No,
he didn't drill him directly
But-
with his helmet. He turned.
But that them's are the rules now, and you have to.
That's the
side
second
with-
year in a row
It is.
Skowski got
It
tossed
is.
for targeting.
It
right?
is.
in the final.
It is. But Clemson. Again, I was all in because of Trevor Lawrence.
Yep.
So
I want to talk about that.
I think it's a foregone conclusion that Lawrence played his last game at Clemson.
No question.
Then we'll go to the NFL. Now back to Ohio State. I was kind of thinking. I was actually talking to somebody at work during the week about Ohio State and Ohio State quarterbacks. Now, as great as a game that Justin Fields had,
You know who had the game?
he kind of reminds me of somebody said, well, do Ohio State quarterbacks translate to the NFL for the most part? And I said, you know what? The first one I thought of was Braxton Miller, only, not even 10 years ago. But I'm saying Braxton Miller was a great athlete and quarterback at Ohio State, but he kind of reminds me of a Justin Fields. So I don't know if Justin Fields
How did
translates.
Arch Schliessler
Yeah,
translate?
exactly.
And,
Well,
Kent Graham, right?
Right. Tom Tupa. Yeah,
Absolutely.
great punter, but, he was a quarterback too. I mean, Joe Germain.
Yep.
Guys that had great, good careers at Ohio State, but do they translate? So Justin Fields, I'm I'm just wondering if he's like a Braxton Miller type that won't translate to the NFL. Don't know. But he had the game of his life.
And that's a great point because, I got an email today we did from Mike Garvey who asked us about that question. Is Trevor Lawrence the greatest college quarterback ever? And Steve and I are very, like I said, we watch every player. College doesn't necessarily translate to the NFL, right? Joe Burrow may, but Peyton Manning did, and Joe Montana did, and Troy Aikman did. And as you brought up, we talked before the show, there were guys like Turner Gill. When you say college quarterbacks,
Sure.
Awesome.
The Oklahoma
Tommy Frazier.
Yeah, the Oklahoma quarterbacks. Jamel Holloway, to Charles Thompson.
Right.
Obviously, would never translate to the NFL. But these guys, if you want to say who is the best quarterback in college football of all time, these guys are in the discussion.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a long list.
And we thought Ryan Leaf was going to translate, but the reason Mike sent
How about
us
Jake Plummer? Really? At Arizona State, the Rose Bowl that he had.
Unbelievable
I mean,
game.
the list is endless.
Yep.
Of
But when you look at Trevor Lawrence, Steve, you're talking about, if all things being equal, his record is 34, and now it's 34-2,
Right.
Which is unbelievable. He looks like he's got all the skills, all the tools,
Yeah,
all the social
prototype.
You know.
He is the poster child. He's got the size, the strength, the arm strength.
I think it's much easier to even
intangibles.
say, who was the best NFL quarterback? And our father would say, hands down, Johnny Unitas.
Johnny U.
But from an NFL perspective, what Montana did and Steve Young did and
Right,
Marino
but
did.
I don't translate it to the NFL. The question is strictly college, so I don't factor in what they did in the NFL. I'm just talking about college.
And that's what Mike's question was.
So, Mike, to answer the question is, I can't. I don't.
He's up there. Let's put it that way.
Oh yeah, he
Right?
is. He is.
We love this kid.
There's
He's
no-
done everything right. He went through the COVID thing too, but you know what? He's going to be the number one pick.
Right.
But did this force the Jets into saying Justin Fields is the number 2 pick?
Listen,
You're a Sam Darnold guy. Are the
No.
Jets ready to move on? Because, they're going to fire their coach this week.
he's gone Monday at. I don't even think he'll last till 9 o'clock on
Well,
Monday.
if they got the 1 o'clock game, he's done by 4:30.
Nah, they typically do it the next day.
All right.
But if the Jets are taking a quarterback, Zach Wilson of BYU
Well, you just stole my thunder right there.
should be under consideration. But I don't think the Jets are going to draft a quarterback at 2. I think because they lost out on Trevor Lawrence, they're going to go with Darnold. I don't see why they wouldn't. I don't see why.
And what,
you
get
would-
him a right tackle to go with Becton?
I
on
don't
the
see why they would then
Okay.
blow this up.
Okay.
I don't think Sam Darnold, we talked about it, as he looked as good as I anticipated, no. But I don't think you can blow up the ship yet.
All right. But the question for Mike was about Trevor Lawrence, and you know what? He's going to be the number 1 pick, and we really like him, and he's done everything right. So,
I mean, he still has to beat out the mustache in Jacksonville.
but I got a good
Gardner
text. I got a good text last night from one of our loyal listeners, Kenny Backert.
Yeah.
Dabo, do. He gave me a Fred Flintstone reference.
Absolutely.
And this, looking back on it, Dabo kind of dissed Ohio State and said, "Oh, I wouldn't even have him in the Final
I
Four."
tell you
kind of
what,
thing.
I'm glad you brought that up. So for the audience, Dabo Sweeney, obviously,
Stud, two national
right,
champions.
but with the rankings and so forth, the coaches have to rank these teams. So he put Ohio State at 11th, and obviously Ohio State, did what they did last night. So for a week, or I think it was 2 weeks, the scuttlebutt was, Dabo is dissing Ohio State. But to Dabo Sweeney's credit, he said, listen, they've only played 4 games or 5, whatever it was.
I know his rationale behind it.
I don't have any problem with it. And he also said, Ohio State, he couldn't have been more congenial about it. And listen, Ohio State flat out laid the wood to Clemson, and they absolutely deservingly will face Alabama in 2 weeks.
And what do you think about that game? You got Ohio State, Alabama.
I
I
got
know
Alabama.
you've been on the Alabama
I'm
bandwagon. all
going
along.
Alabama.
You're a huge Mac Jones fan, and
I think what we saw last night from Alabama, I just think.
But you're not seeing a blowout. You think?
No, I think this will be a competitive game, but I think Alabama, like I said, with the three-headed monster on offense.
You know who I
these
was
guys
so
are-
happy
these
for
guys are
yesterday,
special.
Steven? I think Ryan Day is awesome, and he did nothing but his homework during this thing and said,
Huge Ryan Day
"This is
fan.
how we could beat these
Huge-
guys." And
huge Ryan
they
Day
executed everything,
Huge Ryan Day fan.
big time.
Yeah.
But he's going up against, you're right, maybe one of the most productive college football teams of all time. Averaging 49 points a game, for crying out loud.
And they're going to have,
Yep.
a Heisman Trophy winner,
Yep.
whether it's Mac Jones or Devontae.
I think Devontae Smith won
I
it
think
last night.
Devontae Smith won it last night myself, too.
All right. So, college football, can't wait,
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, we got some bowl games today. It was a great game yesterday, Cincinnati and Georgia.
Yeah.
That came down to, Cincinnati. Luke Fickell is a disciple of the Ohio State tree.
Yep.
Was the interim head coach, when
Didn't he play at Ohio State?
I think he
too?
did back
Yeah.
in the day.
did.
But Luke Fickell's been the head coach now at Cincinnati for about 3-4 years, maybe 4.
Yeah.
They got nothing to hang their heads at. They actually look pretty damn good,
They had a great year.
Yeah, but
undefeated.
I watched the game. Some of their players are like really physically imposing. I don't think Cincinnati's going away anywhere. I think they're going to be a very prominent football team going forward. Great job by them. They lost a tough one to Georgia on a last-second field goal.
You know what? I do remember Luke Fickell playing for Ohio State, actually. You're right. But hey, we're psyched about it, right? College football's coming to a close.
Yeah.
What about the professional football league, right?
Well,
big games this weekend.
well, they had a
They're
big
trying
game.
to decide the NFC East.
And I got to
Your
say,
Dallas Cowboys.
well, yeah. I mean, I've been highly consistent saying they have zero chance to make the playoffs. They're done. Put a fork in them, stick, that type of thing.
and if they win
I still think
and Washington loses, they're in.
I think Washington will win, even though, great news, by the way. So let me finish the Cowboys' thought. They're coming up to exit 16W to play the Giants, and the Redskins are playing the Eagles. I couldn't have been happier this week with the news that Ron Rivera cut Dwayne Haskins.
I know.
It's such a breath of refreshing.
We were just talking about
That-
Ohio State quarterbacks. What a season he had, right?
Right.
Does that translate to the NFL?
Right, put him in on the list.
You got
But
it.
the point is, it's refreshing that what Ron Rivera did, that there's still some law and order, if you will, in the NFL. There's accountability, that he's a number 1 pick 2 years ago.
He's in charge
But
for the Washington football
I tell you
team.
what, I couldn't have been happier to hear the news. So now Washington, Taylor Haneke is getting the start, but I still think Washington wins because the Eagles. I think the Eagles could care less if they win. They'd rather probably take the loss at this point, so it would move them up 1 or 2 more slots in the draft.
I'm going to take the Eagles.
I like
and
Washington. I like Washington tomorrow.
Tyler Heineke was in the Cornhole Championship 6 months ago. Now he's quarterbacking against
But
the Eagles.
listen, this kid came
And
in.
Jalen Hurts is a pretty good player.
But Heineke came in last week, and it's not like this is his first. He looked okay.
Didn't
right?
he? Wasn't he the quarterback in the Lingerie Bowl?
He was in
2
the
years
Puppy
ago?
Bowl.
But as far as the NFL goes, one of my picks this week is actually Dallas. I think they're going to beat the Giants, and I
Okay.
think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to beat the Washington football team, and the Dallas Cowboys make the playoffs.
No,
Congratulations!
Thank you. I see it quite the opposite.
Okay.
Listen, I just see Washington beating the Eagles. I think the Eagles have packed it in for the season.
Pedersen or whatever his name is, right, hanging on for his job.
He's coming back. The guy won the Super Bowl for them. Come on.
I got it, but
Has it been a bad season? Yeah. Okay, but Doug Peterson is not going anywhere.
and let's stick with our NFL. And of course, did I mention, Steve? This segment sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut.
You were about to, and you just did.
So, Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Lynch Toyota.
Thank you,
Manchester,
Mike.
Connecticut.
Yep.
And here's my other pick. Arizona needs this game.
Yes.
And I kind of like Kyler Murray's had a great season. I mean,
We talked about
he's a
it.
good player.
He made the Pro Bowl.
And you're right. Goff is out, and you're right. You know, I've been on his bandwagon saying most improved player, but you're right. He hasn't won big games, and he's out. You know, thumb on the helmet, right? Broken thumb.
It might be a good thing for the Rams.
But I think that'll be exciting for the Cardinals to make the team. This Murray's had a great season, and I'd like to see him get more national
They gotta win.
publicity. Yeah.
You know, they got to win.
And
They lost last week, but I think Kyler Murray. I like the Cardinals tomorrow too.
And there's one other game I find intriguing. I know Pittsburgh has been kind of reeling. They did win last week, but they lost a couple of games. Roethlisberger's out. Is Baker Mayfield going to get this team into the playoffs tomorrow?
I don't think Baker Mayfield.
I'm on the fence with this guy. You know,
I mean, lately I've been pro Baker. I've been back
and
and
COVID
forth.
has run rampant on this team.
I got
by
it.
the way.
I got it. I mean, listen, I'm surprised that Cleveland hasn't already clinched a spot, right, based on their record.
Right.
But they have to win tomorrow, and if they don't, they're not going to get in.
I'm saying they're going to win tomorrow.
But it's one of those things where even if they don't get in, I think Cleveland's had a really good year, and Kevin Stefanski. Listen, I really do. I
know, but they've been
think Kevin
talking about
Stefanski has done a great job, and I think the future is finally bright for Cleveland.
We've been saying that for 2 years since they drafted Mayfield.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
I don't know.
I think they're realizing they need to the team chemistry and the makeup of that team had to be adjusted. Is it a coincidence that when Odell Beckham got hurt, that Baker Mayfield started playing like really well? I don't think it's a coincidence. I think that Odell Beckham is such a selfish cancer that look.
Who do you like tomorrow?
I would say
Pittsburgh or
look for Cleveland to move him if they can, being he's hurting and everything. But I like Cleveland.
All right, give me your picks for the week. You know, who do you like? Upset specials? Anything? You know?
No,
How about Dolphins?
And the Dolphins are
And the
another
Bills.
thing. Dolphins are
and the
another.
Bills.
I think the Dolphins Dolphins got more to play for. They still have a chance to make it. The
They
Bills,
don't beat Buffalo and Buffalo tomorrow, though.
I think Buffalo probably shows up with the minor league team. They got nothing to play for. They clinched the division. And I wouldn't be surprised if Buffalo rests players and things like that.
I think they need a win to get the number 2 seed in the AFC.
It don't matter. They're going to Kansas City if they get to the championship game one way or the other.
Yep.
And I'll go with an upset special with the Dolphins.
Okay.
I can do that. There's again. I think the Bills will.
Here's one of the most
Relax.
intriguing games of the week: the Jets and Patriots. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Cam's last game, and
Yeah. Adam Gase's last game.
that's right.
Perhaps Sam Darnold's last game.
Can they close out the season with 3 straight wins over the Patriots?
And it would be such a shame to fire Adam Gase after a 3-game win streak and all the momentum and goodwill that he's built up over his tenure, and just to flush it down the toilet again. Boy, that would be that is happening, folks.
Sayonara.
Sayonara.
Exactly.
I don't know. I see New England winning that tomorrow.
I don't. I think it's going to be a culmination of an ugly season for the Patriots. We thought Cam Newton had a little bit more in the tank than he did. He looked
You
awful.
did, not me.
I told you he was going to play for
That's
the
fine,
Patriots.
you did. And, but the reason I'm taking New England is because any time that Bill Belichick plays the Jets, he likes to stick a fork in them.
You got it. And he's had a tough season. He's
poor-
not been a happy
Oh,
camper.
poor baby. Poor baby.
I know, everyone goes shit on Bill Belichick, but he's done nothing but win.
Of course, but listen, I'm enjoying him having a shit season.
Everybody
Yes.
is. Everybody
And
is.
if you disagree, please send us a comment to sportswithmono@gmail.com.
All right. So there's our NFL segment. Let's wrap this up with a couple of
How about the Oakland Raiders losing, to the Dolphins?
the Oakland Raiders. Was that a purposeful?
Yes, it
faux
was,
pas?
because John Gruden wore the Oakland Raiders hat a couple weeks ago. I'm kidding.
But it's the Vegas.
But the Las
Raiders.
Vegas Raiders, and the fact that they lost that game and they're out. And I just love Gruden's look on the sideline when that face mask on Fitzpatrick.
The guy's intense, man. He is intense.
Oh, but the Raiders is such a disappointment.
It is. But listen, let's move on before we close out today with Major League Baseball. A couple of major trades, and we'd say most active in the Major League market were the San Diego Padres. They want to win this.
They're no joke now.
They're looking to back up the Machado and the Tatis and all these guys.
Yeah, they're no
big
joke.
money they're paying these guys.
The new ownership in San Diego is
They got money.
They're spending money,
Blake Snell,
and they're going to be.
Yu Darvish.
Yeah, they want to challenge the big brother Los Angeles Dodgers.
But
the
they
world
gave up a
champions.
lot of their farm
That's fine.
system to win it
That's
tomorrow.
That's what you do.
All right.
That's why you have a big farm system.
And following up on your monologue from last week, no movement on the DJ LeMahieu contract
yet.
talks?
Nothing yet. And if he leaves, I really I'm going to have a major problem with the New York Yankees.
But what are we doing with the Major League Baseball schedule? Did they come out with how many games they're going to play? Is it going to be a 162-game season?
No, it can't be.
So another asterisk season, right?
Most likely.
All right.
I'm sure it'll be reduced. They're going to get in as many as they can, but it's not going to be this, the tournament-esque thing of 2020.
60-game season, Dodgers throwing their hats up like, come on, 60 games? Of all major sports, baseball, 162-game season is an effort in attrition. You got to show up for 162
That's why,
games.
again, when you win the World Series,
Yep.
I think winning the World Series is second. Second.
To the Super Bowl, I'm guessing?
Like second in exhilaration. The Stanley Cup, when the team wins, you see the emotion of that team. Like we've talked about it 1,000 times.
Because those guys are warriors. An NHL season.
So my point is, I would probably rank Major League Baseball as number 2 with the emotion when you see them all piled up on the pitcher's mound and rolling on each other, because it's 162. We make light of the fact, oh, my fingernail, this, that, and he's out for 2 weeks. But it's 162 games.
You're right. The Stanley Cup is winning something like you guys are losing teeth week after week, and they show up tomorrow.
Yeah,
right?
so I'm just saying, if you got to rank winning, the emotion again of the Stanley Cup would be number 1. I would say Major League Baseball would be number 2. Say football would be number 3, and I put basketball as number 4.
I can go along with that order, actually. Not bad. NHL season, right? That's starting too. And,
Hell yeah. I can't wait to see my boy Alexis Lafreniere.
We got a lot of, excitement about the Rangers and so forth, and the talent he's amassed.
We're still
and David
a year.
Quinn
Listen,
and
we're
so
still
forth.
a year away. We're not competing for the Stanley Cup.
Another year
let's
has
be
to go
real.
through.
But I want to see this kid this year. Listen, I just think the Rangers are on a good path going forward, and we shall see. But yeah, the NHL is going to start up.
And I want to give
very soon
a shout out to Henrik Lundqvist going through open heart surgery. We talked about it last week.
I did.
And he's going.
And I will make somewhat of an apology to him that I kind of minimized it. But it's no joke what he's going through. His career's done. Let's face it. He'll never play
Hall
again.
of Famer, no question.
Yeah.
But no Cup. Marino, didn't win the
Yeah,
Super
but I
Bowl,
also stay firm on the fact that there's Mike Rickner on Mount Rushmore, Ranger Land, and it's Eddie Giacomin, and then the King.
King Henrik.
But the King,
But I wish him good
He
luck.
got us.
you know.
Listen, this guy had a very, very good Ranger career. I'm not minimizing it, but I got a little bit tired of the celebrity aspect
I got
of,
you,
of
too.
Hank towards the
I
end of his
agree.
tenure.
Until you
But
win
we
a
wish
cup.
we wish him nothing.
He's
but
not
the
in
best.
Mike Richter land.
He's a good guy. He's not
No
a
question.
So we do wish him well, and you know,
And from a hockey
speedy
perspective,
recovery.
look, you know, the Caps, you know, you got they signed Zdeno Chara off the Boston
did.
Bruins. They
Yeah.
had Henrik Lundqvist.
I think he's
you know.
43 now. But you know, Chara was the Bruins captain for 14 years. Great player. You know,
Won a cup.
Jack and the Beanstalk. He's the giant from Jack and the Beanstalk, right? But he's got one more year,
Yep.
and he was going to get a diminished role in Boston. And hey, 1 year deal with the Capitals.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yep. So like I said, the NHL is a shortened season, and like it's going to take a year and a half before we get back to the regular schedule that we're accustomed to.
See, Poppy.
And listen, before we close out with our notables, college hoops, right? And you brought it up before. Gonzaga looks pretty good.
Yeah,
right? They
Gonzaga
look
right
really
now
good.
clearly is the number one team.
But they got to prove they can get to the finish line because they've had some good teams in the NCAA
I
tournament.
actually think this is the year. I think this might be. I'm serious. I think the fact that they're number one right now. What does that mean come tournament time? Nothing. But of the Gonzaga team,
Mark Few still the
Mark
coach.
Few is the coach.
Yep.
I think generally consensus. I've been reading opposing coaches playing them like Izzo and so forth said this may be the best Gonzaga team that Few has had.
And it may be the year for them to,
And that's
to
a
cross
bold,
the
and
finish.
that's a bold statement. There've been some really solid teams,
Right, 'cause you
it's
look
not,
at-
it's not the first time they've been number one. Put it that way. They've been-
Exactly.
so we shall see. But right now, Gonzaga looks to be clearly the best team,
And what's going on in the NCAA? Kentucky's 1-5 for the first time in 100
and
years.
loving every minute of it.
Tom Izzo and Michigan State, you know, they'll show up come game time, but they're having a tough go of it in the
But
beginning.
let me clarify my Kentucky. I love Kentucky basketball. The fact that John Calipari is now 1-5 or whatever it is for the first time since
Diminishes it a little
1918.
bit. Yeah. You're happy about that.
I don't have a problem with
got you.
Calipari being brought back down to earth.
And we don't know what the NCAA tournament's going to look like, you know, because it's still 3-4 months away. But
I also on the hoops front, real quick for college. I want to recognize Rutgers. Rutgers is playing very. Listen, they got as high as 11th ranked. I think they're 14th now or 15th. They lost to Ohio State last week. They rebounded with another victory. Ron Harper Jr. is
Good player.
really looking good.
Yep.
He's averaging 20 plus. And listen, Rutgers, and I love the coach, Steve Peichel. I love this guy. And I just want to acknowledge Rutgers. Watch out for them.
Okay.
And they are trending upward. I think their program is doing very well.
Good. And listen, before we move off college basketball, I just want to give a shout out to the Keontae Johnson, right? I mean, it was so horrifying. He collapsed on the, University of Florida guard.
Yeah.
Reminded you of the Hank Gathers, right? Hank Gathers kind of thing.
Yeah, it's still the Hank Gathers thing is still one of the most disturbing videos I've ever.
So was this, but
I
it turns out
understand
it worked out better. He's back. He's back on his feet.
That's why Hank's is smart.
It was shocking, but it was, I'm glad he's doing well and so forth.
Absolutely,
Right?
no doubt.
So, Steve, we close out with our notable passings, right? And again, number one, Phil Necro. You and I talked about this offline last night. Brother Joe pitched in the league as well. Hall of Famer, Phil Necro. What do you think? 82 years,
yeah.
81, I think.
I tell you what, again, we always made jokes about Phil Necro, when he played for the Yankees at
Like we could hit it over the
age,
Green Monster.
At age 68 or whatever. No, but he looked like he was 68.
Yeah.
And then you would see him pitch and you'd be like, this is ridiculous.
Nobody can hit this.
But the point is, he is a bona fide Hall of Famer. He had some seasons that were outstanding. And then when I read...
I think he won 20 games 3 times, actually.
But the point is, he was outstanding. So obviously one of our humorous baseball people, the Monahan brothers here, love and admires Bob Uecker. So Bob Uecker was the catcher in Milwaukee for the Braves, with Necro. and Negro, and so I read an article and Euchre made a couple things, he goes, I caught Phil Negro, Phil led the league in wins that year, and I led the league in pass balls, like things like that. But then Euchre would say, I also met a lot of very important people. While I was catching Phil Negro, because they all sat in the front row in the back behind home plate.
Yeah, it was.
But Euchre is so great.
Totally.
But Phil Negro, he acknowledged, and really, Phil Negro,
Hey, he won 300 games.
Hall of Famer, no question. Great person. Got to play with his brother Joe. Joe passed already. Joe's been
Yeah, he
gone a
did
while.
go a few years ago.
And of course, the nail file in the back pocket was.
We were laughing.
That's on Joe. But
Yeah. Hey, he was a good
all right,
pitcher.
Peg. No, listen, Hall of Fame, no doubt. Phil Negro.
Wore the pinstripes for the Yankees.
Absolutely,
So,
no doubt.
but listen, a couple other ones actually outside of the world of sports, and this is for our comedy fans. Gilligan's Island, considered top 5 all time. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But Marianne, right? You were either a Ginger or a Marianne guy.
Oh, I was a Marianne guy all the way.
I was a Ginger guy.
Huh? Not even close.
And she had a good career. She made her mark on the show.
Hey, listen,
We watched it, full disclosure here. We don't watch it anymore, but we watched it back
we
then.
had to watch it because nothing else was on.
Exactly. It was either that or homework.
So Gilligan's Island, repeat after repeat after repeat.
Hey, Dawn Wells had a good career.
Absolutely, 82, but she succumbed to COVID too.
Yep.
So I can't tell you Dawn Wells another role that was prominent. But
she probably
it
played
didn't
on
matter.
the Love Boat
Of
and
course.
Fantasy
of
Island.
Of course, but
right?
she was a nice woman, had a nice acting career.
And appreciated her success.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
absolutely.
the key. Yep.
So R.I.P. Dawn Wells.
Yep. And one other guy prominent actually made a movie, Joe Clark, Patterson East Side Principal.
This is a good one.
And he was a tough guy.
So we have Kevin Bacon 6 Degrees of Separation because in high school we played who?
Patterson East Side.
Patterson East Side.
Yep.
In football and I played him in baseball and so on and so forth. They were nicknamed the Ghost. And I tell you what, Joe Clark.
Did a movie on him. Morgan Freeman played him.
Morgan Freeman played Joe Clark.
Andy Dufresne. He swam through a pipe. We both think we do brilliant Morgan Freeman.
Well, I know I do.
But Joe Clark, hey, the guy was tough as nails, 82 years
Absolutely.
old. And,
Lean on Me, the movie.
Yep.
But Joe Clark, you got to give him credit for
trying.
Oh God, yeah.
It was
right?
an ugly place he was
Holy
doing.
Christ, ugly! It's like you said, we played games there.
And it was controversial and
was-
so forth, enough to make a movie about
It
it.
very much was, but Joe Clark, I think, has gotten the due and the recognition
Yeah.
of trying and unorthodox, yes, but he had to go the hard way.
And I bet he passed
R.I.P.
away with a baseball bat in his arm.
Oh, absolutely.
And one last...
And the baseball bat will be in the casket, I would imagine, too.
And believe me, there were marks on that bat. That
God.
wasn't a showpiece.
Oh, yeah.
But one other guy, Pierre Cardin from the world of fashion.
Sure.
And I remember, I don't know how it happened, but somehow I had a Pierre Cardin shirt or a tie.
It's
Somebody
not a
gave
bad
me.
brand to have. Pierre Cardin was
This guy made,
yeah, very reputable, no doubt. I mean,
98 years
hey,
old.
good for him. It's a long run.
And I'm guessing, his relatives are just as excited about his passing.
Oh yeah, this is the honeymooners when Ralph.
Multi-billion-dollar empire. But he passed away.
This is the honeymooners when Ralph thinks he's getting his fortune left to him by
The late Mary Monahan.
the late Mary Monahan.
Which, by the way, going from 2020 to 2021, the Honeymooners Marathon was on, and if you can't appreciate good humor, then don't watch it, because it's brilliant. Anyway. But listen, thanks for joining us, everybody, and we'd love to hear from you.
What do you want me to sign an affidavit with a notary Republican or something?
Drinking milk from a saucer. spending most of my time by the stove. But anyway, folks, thanks for joining us. Send us an email at sportswithmanoandmano@gmail.com.
See.
We'd love to hear from you, and all the best and health and happiness and prosperity in 2021. And we'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely.
Enjoy the world of sports.
You got it.
Be good.
Thanks for your time.
Bye, guys.